it's just like the popular clip from that gets shown all the time.
The dino one?
Yeah, the nuggets.
The nuggets,
So
yeah.
the Jamie Oliver shows a bunch of like 8 or 9 year olds how nuggets are made with the pink slimy crap, and they're all disgusted. All the kids are disgusted.
And then he asks, "Would you eat that?" And they're like, "Yeah."
Yeah. You mean the slime from Ghostbusters 2?
As long as they're breaded.
As long as they're breaded and shaped like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
The kids
They're
will
like,
eat it.
"Yep, oh, we'll eat it."
Give me some ketchup.
And he's like disgusted. But the thing is that scene is actually taken almost directly from the UK version. And in the UK version, the kids are like, "No, that's disgusting." But Americans are like, "Yeah, we'll eat it."
Yeah. We are trash.
Yeah.
God. Okay. Should we officially start this thing?
Let's do this.
Do this. Woot!
I've eaten my burrito.
Yes, good for you. It is Sunday night. This is Tony.
This is Todd.
This is Byron.
And Meg.
And Meg. This is the Getting Off Topic podcast. Byron has a burrito in his stomach. I am overstuffed with Del Taco. Meg is knitting away with the fierceness.
Did you get a Beyond Taco?
I did. Well, I got to be on burrito. The 8-layer veggie burrito.
I still haven't tried the Beyond versions yet.
It's really good.
Because there's not a Del Taco within like driving distance of where I am.
Yeah.
There is one like if I like made a jaunt of it, but I don't want to drive 25 miles for Del Taco.
It's good. I mean, I wouldn't get it every single time, but you know, it fills the need of ground beef tacos.
Yeah. The Impossible burgers, as far as like taste and consistency closest to the original thing, the real thing, those definitely win out.
Good.
Yeah, I mean the Beyond Meat is fine. It's serviceable, but if you're looking for like, oh, I need that exact same or as close to the original
that
product as possible.
taste.
Yeah,
I freak out every single time I get an Impossible burger because I'm like, this is too damn good. I bet this is meat, and if I get sick, I'm gonna sue these motherfuckers.
Yeah,
but I'm
like,
fine. So
Tony, is this? Can you taste it? I'm like, it looks like the real thing to me. Like, I don't fucking know.
I have literally pulled apart hamburgers trying to figure out if it's the fake meat or the real meat because I can't tell.
Yeah. Many Impossible Whopper has been dissected.
Yep. But anyways.
Todd sitting like a Bond villain with his cat as usual.
Yes.
That's
this one
Ahsoka.
usually, this is Ahsoka, and she usually doesn't come for attention, but she came up.
When Mr. Bigglesworth gets angry, people die.
I love those so much. I need a rewatch of those. We've got the whole set on Blu-ray.
They're great. I mean, there's some problematic stuff in there, but not as much as you'd think.
Yeah.
That's like the whole like plot of the second movie where he's like, no, I am very like respectful of women, you know? Yeah.
Man.
So Pepe Le Pew's got to go.
Oh yeah, apparently he's no longer fitting for the Toon Squad. Is that what their team was called?
The Toon Squad, yeah.
Toon Squad, yeah. Have you seen the whole thing? I'm sure because you live on the fucking internet like we all do. All the back and forth about Lola Bunny.
How she got deboobed.
The redesign, you know.
Desexified.
Yeah, desexified. Yeah, because the original version was.
Hey, she had a double mastectomy. It happens.
Yeah. We have an old friend on Facebook. Said something like
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. A friend on Facebook said something like Lola got top surgery and we should
respect that.
Respect their wishes or celebrate their you know.
It's Larry Bunny, and how dare you dead name him?
And then the fake memes, the fake like Fox News screen grabs, like their little ticker on the bottom saying like, cancel culture comes for Lola's Big Naturals.
See, I wasn't sure if that was real or not the first time
I wasn't either.
And that says something about Fox News.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So how's everybody doing?
Pretty well. I had a job interview today at a nerdy place.
Right.
Hope I get it. Everybody in audience land, cross your fingers for me.
Fingers, toes, sacrifice chicken. Not really, because
Tails.
Tails. Other appendage.
Well, it is game themed, so tails should definitely cross their tails for me.
Oh, I forgot, Byron, before you joined the chat, I showed Todd what came in finally.
Oh, wow, look at that. That's snazzy looking.
Stealth.
It's a laptop for people who can't see, and
Yeah,
that's everyone other than us.
This fucking 17-inch MSI beast.
Wow. Is it a 1440 screen or 1080?
It's a 1080. Which is
mean, honestly, you don't need more than 1080 on that size screen.
Really don't. But yeah, this is like a desktop replacer, which is the point of getting it, as well as just to game like a motherfucker. But like,
and the good thing now is that like mobile GPUs support multiple monitors so easily.
Yeah.
Like it barely takes any resources.
Yeah. When I unboxed it and realized like how big it was, and with this like super matte spaceship like design, the perfect name immediately came to mind: Spaceball 1.
Ludicrous speed.
Yo, my braids are going.
What does that make
feet.
us? Nothing. Now die.
Yeah, we name all of our shit in this house.
Yeah. The
Speaking
desktop...
of Spaceballs, did you know there was a Spaceballs animated series?
Extremely short-lived, and for a good reason.
It got canceled like almost immediately after it came
was
out.
on like Spike, I think.
Yeah.
The very last final days of Spike. Yeah.
I wonder how many canceled animated series there are from like unknown properties. Like we remember Clerks, the animated series.
We have
for
that on
good
DVD.
reason, because that was awesome.
Because it's incredible. And actually, like I've asked this around. Is this like just this was a friend group thing that we all became obsessed with, or is it legitimately good? And I've actually seen very, very, very positive critical reception on other realms that like Clerks the animated series is a lost like perfect little gem.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree.
So like me and Meg were teasing each other for whatever. I don't even remember what the subject conversation.
Who's driving? Oh my god, Bear's driving. How can that be?
Why is Bear driving? Just randomly the other day, like Meg said something like a quick witty comeback to me, and I had nothing in response.
We are slaves. Work.
I had nothing to reply with, so eventually I just said, "Well played, Meg."
Clerks.
And in my head, I hear, "Well played, Clerks."
Oh my god, show me the money.
Can you guys vulcanize my tires while I wait?
Do you guys sell black tar heroin? Yeah, Clerks animated series, for anybody who has never seen it, it premiered in, I think, January of 2000 and only aired 3 episodes. Was it 3 or 2?
Probably.
It premiered after the Super Bowl, and they only aired 3 episodes, and then it was immediately canceled. And they only made 6 total. Yeah. But it's really good. You should check it out.
Totally is.
Starring Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
and Charles Barkley. I hope this trial never ends.
Oh my god, I can't. I'm having like waves of flashbacks. I want to go back and watch those. I was actually just listening to Smodcast, which I hadn't listened to in a long time, but he had like the whole old comic book men crew on there who do their own podcast now that Tell 'em Steve Dave, which they've done for like frickin' ever now.
You tell him, Steve Dave.
This reminds me, I was talking to my my writing buddy, my friend Becky, a few weeks ago, and she like in a huff texted me one afternoon and was like, I have something you should talk about on your podcast, because she had just discovered that Dogma is nowhere to be found.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Because of the weird
Because it's
rights
owned
issue.
by the Weinstein.
Owned by the Weinsteins, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, it was this weird.
Entirely. It is entirely owned by the Weinsteins.
Yeah, I forget the full story, but it was something about because of the big controversy surrounding the film, because you had all the churchy people like throwing a hissy fit, and
It's just the whole point of the film.
yeah, and they were trying to get it blocked from even being released. The movie studios kind of wanted to wash their hands of that controversy and basically gave up the rights to the Weinsteins in full, if I'm correct.
Oh,
Something like that.
I don't know if that's the story behind it, because I actually watched a video about Kevin Smith explaining all the rights issues just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
And I don't remember what he said,
Right.
but he has pretty much said that there's little to no chance it will ever be released until they're both dead.
Yeah. And it was also part of the problem was back when that deal solidified and that was made, streaming didn't exist yet.
Yeah. So there weren't any plans for a possible streaming release.
Yeah, digital releases and whatnot.
So it just, because I mean, I think the last time it was released on DVD was probably the one that we all saw.
Yeah.
In like 2004
Yeah.
or
The one that we
so.
own, right?
Yeah, I have it, the special edition. Yeah.
The special edition that came out in like I think it was 2004.
Yeah, it's like a 2-disc special edition.
I think that's the
yeah.
last time it was ever published, and most likely for the time being will be.
Yeah.
So hold on to it for dear life.
Yeah.
Until the Weinsteins die and they sell the rights to some other company. That's probably going to be the last release that we see.
Yeah.
That's why if you look online, and I was looking for it a couple months ago before I realized all this had happened, and that DVD copy that you have is worth like over $150 if it's unopened.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's crazy. We were watching another random Joe Bob episode that we or last drive-in episode that we hadn't
Which one?
Watched yet, from season 1 actually. Society.
Oh,
which I had never seen before.
God, Society is
incredible. I really liked that movie. I didn't think I would.
It's so good.
I was afraid that I was going to be too squeamish because, like, we discussed
it's
like
not
body,
scary at all.
Yeah,
it's
well, like
just,
body horror stuff trips me out, but that did not.
Horror.
That was
yeah.
It was more
silly.
just incredible special effects than anything.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean that. You know that like that movie, it was like banned in the United States, but got a life over in Germany.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's also the weird like bit where like it's written by like a Jewish screenwriter, and it's supposed to have like all of his experiences of like growing up in like Gentile rich friends, but the character is played by like the whitest dude on the planet, like the most Gentile white dude on the planet.
Yeah.
And so like it's got this like weird. Anyways, I listened to some commentary about that, and it's just very funny.
Yeah. But anyway, with that episode, it just so happened they were talking about. I think Diana Prince or Darcy the Mail Girl. She mentioned something about how Joe Bob's old books that he wrote like ages back, and he still apparently has like a handful of copies.
He still comes out with books every now and then. Yeah,
he'll have old copies that he maybe sells at convention appearances and whatnot, but there's these old ones that are like completely out of print at this point, and she was like coaxing him to try to re-release them, and I realized something clicked in my head, and I was like, I totally remember the last time we went to the last bookstore in LA, I saw a copy of his first book, the Joe Bob Goes to the Drive-In, and I thumbed through it, not even realizing what it was at the time. This was before, like just shortly before I had learned of the last drive-in, and I had this vague memory of like, I think this Monster Vision guy. What?
When was that?
When we went to the last bookstore?
Yeah, like when was that?
Oh,
how long ago? That's what I'm
asking. Maybe like
3 years ago or something.
Okay.
But yeah, that book is from like 86. But it was there for like a couple bucks, you know. It was on some little discount rack in the middle of nowhere. And in that episode, he mentions like, oh, since we started doing the show again and making convention appearances, those books have skyrocketed in price online. And I looked, and sure enough, they're rare finds and like on eBay for $100 and something bucks.
Huh.
So I called the last bookstore. It's like, hey, do you have this? And they said no.
Yeah. You'd think with the popularity, I mean, it's pretty clear at this point that Shudder has been significantly buoyed by the success of
yeah,
Joe Bob.
that's like their
almost to
flagship.
the point where like they can like place the success of the network squarely on his shoulders.
Yeah.
I don't have any data to back that up, but from my anecdotal like experience, that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
That he'd be able to get those books republished somehow. I guess like
Totally.
they are reviews of movies that came out over 30 years ago. So who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, like a lot of those movies, especially in the streaming age, have gotten a second and third life.
Mhm.
So, and horror aficionados are notoriously obsessive about this type of banal minutia. So,
yeah, and people love rediscovering old shit. So I think there's definitely a market for it.
And horror fans specifically, I think, are really interested in the history of the medium being taken seriously, because it seems to happen every 20 or 30 years. Because like even in the 1950s and 1960s, they were looking back on like 1930s like Universal horror and stuff, and starting to like become nostalgic for it. And then in the 80s, people were becoming nostalgic for like the 1950s horror, you know?
Yeah.
So
cycles.
Yeah.
And now we're nostalgic for the 80s horrors.
This reminds me
even 90s and 2000s horror.
It's the
Getting into
phase
that
of
territory
kids growing
now.
up.
Yeah.
You watched it as a child when you were between 10 to 15 or 20, and then in your 30s and early 40s you start to revisit that stuff from your childhood and you want more of it.
Yeah. This reminds me of a meme that I saw like 2 days ago, and it's some guy, like it looks like something out of a commercial for a heart medicine or something, because there's some dude just kind of like leaning against the wall and holding his chest, kind of like, ugh. And the caption is like, when you hear kids today talk about 90s music as oldies and classics. It's like, oh, my heart.
Oh, those spicy memes. Oh, God, they're so old now.
Todd, how is Valhalla? No, not Valhalla.
Valheim.
Valheim is really super fun. Like, it's very simple, very easy on the eyes because the graphics are very like low key. It's not pretty. It's not super good looking. It's
low key or Loki.
Then you got Yggdrasil as your like skybox that you're looking at every once in a while, and you're just like, oh, okay, so that looks good. But then you look down at the trees and everything, and they're all like 32-bit.
No.
I saw an article a couple days ago that some guy had recreated Thomas the Tank without mods, just like with in-game stuff,
building materials. Yeah. That's anytime you get a survival Minecrafty Rust like Daisy type game, there will always be people that want to build like giant structures of replicas of stuff. Like the first one in Minecraft was like yes, there's always giant dongs. That's
time
like the
to
first
penis.
Thing. One of the first things that blew Minecraft up was a replica of the Enterprise D.
I remember that.
That's super impressive if you've never checked it out.
I remember
some
that.
guy made a scale model with interiors of the Enterprise D.
Oof.
Jesus.
And that
I remember watching like a 45-minute overview of that, like some dude just going through and like labeling all the decks and stuff, and just like taking it like 10 forward and the
oh my God
and stuff. And it was like 45 minutes long.
Was there a little Guinan in there? That's nuts.
But that's one of the highlights of this genre. Any building, any simulator, a survival simulator has a building aspect of it.
So a friend of
People will
mine,
build.
a friend of mine who is does like Shakespearean plays, she posted a picture. She built a scale, or I don't know if it's to scale, but she built a replica of the Old Globe Theater in
San Diego.
Like Shakespeare's
Globe
Old Globe
Theater, yeah, like
wow.
in Stratford upon Avon.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, and it was really impressive.
Nice.
And given the building materials of Valheim, it looked the part.
Yeah, I don't do buildy games. I do shoot demons in the face games.
Hey, sometimes they're the same.
Yeah,
like State of Decay 2.
Yeah. Yeah, Todd and I were talking before you joined. We'll have to solidify a co-op adventure to do for the podcast.
Have a podcast gaming night.
Yeah. And with my trusty new beast over here, I haven't even had time to touch it other than installing Doom Eternal. That's literally all I've done.
Hey, for a good time, Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Get Xbox Game Pass. There's a billion games on it now.
There's so much. There's Squadrons. There's the other Star Wars game,
Battlefront, and
Jedi Fallen Order.
Um,
that alone, Tony, I think you'll
like Jedi Fallen Order by itself.
Actually, I have Fallen Order. Actually, my one of my best friends from literally, probably my friend I've known the longest in my entire life. My friend Josh. Shout out to him. I've known the guy since second grade, and we reconnected in the last few years. But
aren't you guys the closest of friends?
He's been a listener of Getting Off Topic since the old days. So kudos to Josh. Yeah.
Hi, Josh.
He really enjoyed listening to our long-winded asses on his UPS routes. So, he surprised me with we were chatting about games, like texting, and then next thing I know, around Christmas time, he sent a copy.
Popped up in your Steam.
Jedi Fallen Order, yeah. So actually, it's for PS4, so I'll have to check that out. But yes, we will have to discuss further what co-op adventure we will go on a journey. But in the meantime, we have business to attend to because
do it.
We're
trying to get under 90 minutes.
We should do the limit.
We need like a cool 80s aerobic montage music going
Push under the
limit. Well, what is definitely not below 90 minutes, not even fucking close.
Christ,
is Zack.
But worth it.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Okay, I'm gonna
Snyder cut of Snyderdome in the Snyderverse.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna start because I'm probably the odd man out here. I didn't care for it at all.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Like it was better than Justice League, the Whedon rapey cut, but it was still garbage to me. Like the story was essentially the same. Like you had bits of backstory with Barry and Cyborg, and Cyborg's story I loved. That was probably the one shining moment of the movie.
I am not broken.
No.
Yeah,
that was good. I was texting with my sister the other day, and she's like, after she finished it, like her first words were like, wow, like Whedon fucked Ray Fisher hard. Like he was essentially the core of the movie. I mean, I'd argue a few of the characters, maybe him and the Flash, were also really the hearts of the picture. But yeah, that was a whole
he did him dirty. He did him real dirty.
Yeah, did him real dirty. That's like it ripped the entire him being like the core of the movie.
Literally going into the core.
Yeah.
It's so much so that I don't even remember him in the first movie.
Neither do I.
I
barely
barely.
do.
Yeah, I remember
And
him.
Flash was like a Flash in the film.
I remember Cyborg being like grumpy because he didn't want to be this, cyborg thing. And then a heartbeat later, he just pops up and like, yeah, I guess I'll help you save the world. And that's all I remember from the Whedon cut.
So I have to be honest. I've never. I know a lot about DC Comics. I've read a lot of DC Comics. I've kept up for the most part, mainly with like Batman and Superman titles, a little bit Green Lantern, and then some of the ancillary characters like Nightwing and Harley and stuff. But I know Cyborg's been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been too fond of the character, mainly because I didn't think that the character's origin was that interesting, really. And when I saw the original cut of the movie, that definitely did no help to that.
Yeah.
And it's also, I've noticed that DC has been trying to push Cyborg for a really long time. When I I know why that they're doing it. I mean, it's very clear why they're doing it, because they need a strong black character on the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought that like Static Shock was a lot cooler than Cyborg was, and that they should do that with that type of character. And there are other characters in the DC universe that I think just fit for that, but they've been pushing it for a really, really long time. I mean, they've been pushing it since like Teen Titans Go, way before that. Like Teen Titans, like since the late '90s, they've been pushing Cyborg on us. And this was the first time that it worked for me.
Yeah,
that Cyborg specifically worked. And I think it had a lot to do with Ray Fisher's acting. He really sold it a lot, and it went. And Cyborg's even in Doom Patrol, right? He's in the show.
I have not watched
temporarily, and I didn't like that version of the character either. But this version with Ray Fisher, I think, finally did it for me, and I think I'm a fan now.
It was funny because there was a point before we started watching the movie where it's just the promo shot with all of them standing next to each other. And I'm like, yeah, I don't remember like that Cyborg guy. And it was so funny because I didn't know what his name was. I just called him that because that's what
his name is literally just Cyborg.
And then his name turns out to be Cyborg. And I'm like, oh my God.
Todd, do you know when Cyborg popped up in DC?
No, I was never a DC person.
Let me look that up.
Sorry, we kind of ripped the talking stick from you, Todd. Did you have anything to add? Or were you any other thing?
No, realistically, like I've only seen the original cut one time.
Same.
Because it was garbage, and I never really wanted to rewatch it or revisit it. And I wasn't a fan of the previous Snyder movies in the DC universe as well. So I couldn't, other than the expanded Cyborg story, which again I loved, I couldn't differentiate it between the original. And it was basically the same plot. It was basically the same story. The only thing that I enjoyed other than the Cyborg story expanded was the Nightmareverse. Give me more of that, and this would have been an amazing film. But I guess maybe Snyder was saving that for part 2 or part 3.
Yeah. You're referring to the big scene at the end, the with
Joker and Deathstroke
and all them, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was a bit torn on that. I mean, let me give my general review. I kind of fucking loved it. I actually really enjoyed myself. I was surprised at how, you'd say you didn't really see much of a difference. Again, like you, I only watched the original version once, so I don't remember much from it. But to me, this seemed to be a vastly different film. Mainly, they gave room for all the characters to breathe. They really gave them.
There was 4 hours of it. Of course, there was room.
Yeah. Did you watch it all in one sitting?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we broke it up into 2 nights, which may have helped actually. It's for the pacing wise anyway. It also to me it honestly didn't feel I didn't feel the length of the movie at all. I was both Meg and I were kind of surprised, like, wow,
we
this
split
is
it up into 2 nights.
we split up into 2
Yeah.
nights, but it also felt like, well, this is.
But
this
if
is
you
really
had
moving.
popcorn and a gallon of soda in you, would you have felt different?
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure.
Like sitting alone or sitting in a theater.
I think the home viewing experience definitely helps because we sit here on our asses and watch hours of binging Netflix shows. So this felt like a really good Netflix show.
So this is the reality: is that the Snyder Cut could not have been released in theaters at 4 hours long. It never could have happened.
Yeah,
it never would have happened, and it shouldn't have ever happened.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's, like I said, the way I framed it in my mind and again, splitting it in half really helped. I mean, I heard some people talking online like, well, you could have just broke it up into, the parts that they specifically, make in the film. And just treat it like a
well, there
Netflix
was
show with
originally
6
a plan
episodes.
to do that. There was a period of time where it was going to be released as a miniseries.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as like together. But supposedly Snyder didn't like that idea.
The only time that I really started to feel the length of it and like, okay, this is getting a bit long in the tooth
was the epilogue.
The epilogue, the Lord of the Rings multiple ending syndrome, which I'm a little torn about because yes, it felt like a bit much. It felt like too much shoehorned
We already had
for future films.
We already had the Martian Manhunter cameo earlier. Did we really need the introducing?
The second one?
I'm ready to be in the Justice League now.
Well, here's the thing: is the Martian Man cameo mid-movie for somebody like me that knows nothing about other characters in the DC universe or the lore or anything like that? I'm like, who the fuck is this guy now? Like, wait, what? Like, it.
Well, and especially for a character that it's flashing back to that we haven't seen in
ever for me.
Well, we haven't seen since Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, but Tony, we had to pause it, and Tony kind of had to give me like a rundown of who this character was. So if there wasn't like that moment at the end where he shows up explaining who he is, then it's just like, what was the point of that in the film? Bringing him into it, because again, somebody like myself that knows nothing of these extra characters, it does no service to me except make me really confused.
I think I made this comparison in the past. I kind of made a tradition with my mom of taking her to the Marvel movies and watching them with her, so she could see her boyfriend Captain America. But the Marvel movies are
America's boyfriend.
They did a really good job of making it for all audiences, whether you were a massive comic book nerd or not, where they introduce you to these characters in a way.
It's like a soft open.
Yeah, soft open. Where, if you are a huge nerd, you get that moment of, oh yes, it's them. And even if you're not, it's okay. It doesn't matter. You'll get enough of the story that you need to. In Snyder's world, he doesn't give a shit about the casual viewer. I think he's like, he'll throw massive plot points in there of these characters that if you're not already in the know, you might be a bit lost and need somebody to explain it to you.
Yeah, definitely. Like I didn't watch this with my sister, mainly because I think she cares less about DC movies than she does about Marvel. But I was just thinking throughout the whole movie how much shit I would have to explain to her if we were watching it together.
We did a lot of pausing and explanation. Also, I had to give Meg a rundown of previously on the Snyderverse because it had been so long since either one of them had watched.
So I'll definitely be. I mean, we talked last week about how I generally am not a fan of Snyder, and I'm still not really a fan of Snyder. This definitely is probably, I think, the most interesting thing that he's done in a long time. But I mean, the reality is if this movie had come out at 2.5 hours instead of the original Justice League, would I have liked it? Probably not. I probably would have not hated it as much as I hated the original Justice League, but I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I did. And that really has to do with the fact that the original was so bad that seeing anything with a unified tone and vision, just to complete this arc, and I'm definitely a sucker for stories being completed, or becoming more whole. And I think Man of Steel by itself is interesting enough that it could, if there was something in between other than Batman versus Superman that was more compelling than Batman versus Superman, it could save the narrative. And at 4 hours, it actually jumps the 2.5 hour mark into something much more conceptually interesting. And as a curio, I think it's this version, the 4 hour Snyder cut, I think is I enjoyed it. It was good. But only in contrast with what it was before. And I think that's really important to remember.
In comparison to the original, it is definitely a better film. Is it a good film on its own when comparing to other like films? No.
No, it really isn't. There's I mean, it really gets back into like core elements of the characterizations that, I mean, Superman is treated definitely better in this film than he is in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
But Batman is still this like jaded loser.
And also, how in the fuck do you make every scene with Jason Momoa boring? How is that even fucking possible?
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing.
that was one thing that I realized. I do appreciate that every character for the most part got their time to shine. They were able to showcase their powers and how it helped the team, and had a bit of an emotional core to each character. Aquaman definitely the weakest of the bunch for sure.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, for a guy who lives in the fucking sea, what a goddamn litter bug. Just shirts and sweaters and whiskey bottles fucking everywhere.
And how many of that same knit sweater do you have, dude? He threw it on the ground like 3 different times.
Threw it on the ground. Oh, by the way, also side note, the weirdest scene, or the scene that I laughed the hardest in, was the fucking like ejector seat of Batman.
Oh yeah. Batman's ejector seat. I remember seeing that and just being like, does he have a bottom loaded ejector seat on his Batmobile? That's
so
weird.
Unexpected.
It's visually jarring. I was into the scene, and then that happened, and Meg starts cracking up, and I'm like, hey, to be fair, there's no way to look cool in an ejector seat. It just is not. You got this flashy...
Just jump out and extend your cape, for fuck's sake. That's what Batman does.
Also, like, okay, so I have to say that I think the movie really ground to a serious halt for me during the same place it ground to a halt in the other version, which is the Russia scene. I think the Russia scene is just awful.
Oh, you mean the climax of the film? The
climax of the film,
huge battle scene that
was just as bad in this version as the original version, if not maybe possibly even worse.
I think it was worse.
I think it may have been worse, actually.
In the original version, Whedon had that whole intersplicing of the Russian family.
Yeah, and that was just as bad.
Yeah.
In fact, I hated that dramatically.
That was not great.
Even though it's gone, I still somehow think that this version of that sequence might actually be worse. Once they're actually in fighting Steppenwolf, I thought it was interesting. But all of that stuff with like Batman shooting alien guns, I just thought was just so stupid. And because like if you can't figure out what to, because Batman just ends up just like shooting alien guns for like 20 minutes. And if you can't figure out an interesting thing to do with Batman, why are you doing anything with Batman?
They can't have him fight Steppenwolf because he's literally just
he would
a
be
man with
crushed
talent.
like a bug. Yeah,
exactly.
But like,
well, I mean, I was trying to think about that. I was like, how? I mean, realistically, what can they do with him? And I was trying to imagine. I was trying to think back to like
they can
watching
throw him out with an ejector seat.
I was trying to think back to like the Justice League cartoons and like how did they deal with Batman?
He always had something interesting to do.
Yeah, because he cannot go up against gods. Like he can wipe out scores of like little henchmen and aliens. He can get rid of the putties.
But he can use his gadgets to do stuff, and there were very few gadgets in this movie.
It definitely could.
Were there any gadgets?
Yeah, he just kind of rolls up in tanks, and that's
and that I don't really like because and this is something that's like inspired by Snyder's love of The Dark Knight Returns, and I'm not someone who loves The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
Like it's like Frank Miller is a fucking sociopath. Like Dark Knight Returns, it's a interesting story, but it was also almost 40 years ago, and let's get on from it. You know, there were a lot better Batman stories told in the 90s and 2000s than Dark Knight Returns.
I did very much enjoy the Amazons, the whole intro to the invasion with the Amazons, and they're desperately trying to get away. I can't remember.
It felt very Rogue One towards the end where they're passing along the Death Star plans.
Yeah, the mother box that was in the Whedon version. I think
shorter though.
The extended part. Yeah, I think in the I don't know what they called it, where they were holding the mother box and then sealed it up. Yeah, I think all of that was extended and showed a lot more of the Amazon's style of fighting and everything. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I really loved, probably one of the standouts is the flashback battle to the Darkseid's original invasion.
Oh, with Zeus and Ares there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was very Lord of the Rings and in a good way, I think.
The Green Lantern.
Yeah, Kilowog, the Green Lantern. In the original, and I was like scrolling through a BuzzFeed article earlier of like all the differences, and I didn't even realize because I barely remember anything from my first viewing of Whedon's version. Darkseid wasn't there at all. It was Steppenwolf who originally invaded the first time as well. Yeah, I enjoyed all that. I kept seeing all these people reacting to watching the Snyder cut and saying like, oh my God, Cyborg, the heart of the film and everything. I would argue also a bit of the Flash. I adored Barry Allen and Ezra Miller, and it's baffling
because he's the only humor in the entire movie.
Yeah. And that entire intro scene of him stopping the car crash, well, not stopping the car crash, but saving which if fans of the know,
that wiener
I love those
wiener.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is he doing? And then he brings it back to the dogs like, oh gosh, I hope everybody's okay.
Can we talk about how long they hovered on that wiener?
There were floppy wieners in that entire
that specific wiener was like the focus. Like there was like depth of field focus on that wiener for a good 15 to 30 seconds.
Sometimes you just got to pay attention to the wiener.
Agreed.
Now that's the one complaint I have about this film for me personally was just I get that Zack Snyder does those slow-mo shots. That's his style. That's his branding. But it felt way too excessive in this film.
Oh yeah, and
like way too much.
It might have been an hour shorter minus slow-mo.
Yes. No, that's not even a joke. Like that, it could have actually been that much shorter without that much gratuitous slow-mo.
Yeah.
That's like what's his face doing so many goddamn lens flares.
JJ.
Zack Snyder does the slow-mo.
JJ, yeah, that's his little gimmick.
So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Steppenwolf, the redesign of him basically being a living cheese grater or transformer, basically. I mean, take it or leave it. I mean, I guess it looked cool, sure.
I mean, he had a little bit more character.
I
He
did
actually had
appreciate.
like lines and talked to other people.
Yeah, he actually had depth.
Talked to
Like he
Desaad.
was. Yeah, he was. Shunned out because he tried to take the throne, I guess, at some point. Or they say he betrayed.
No, I think he
Darkseid
tried to
somehow.
kill other people who were trying to take the throne.
Okay, somehow he got.
Because there were there were supers to Darkseid, and he killed them.
Okay,
that's what I thought was happening. Maybe I misinterpreted.
Desaad kept saying somehow he betrayed Darkseid, and his punishment, like in order to redeem himself, that was the whole point. Like he had to go conquer worlds for Darkseid and prove his worth again. But yeah, that's fine.
Did he have any lines in the first film? I don't even remember him talking in the first version.
Yeah, no, he had lines. They just weren't very interesting.
Like it was literally just like, I'm the big bad here to conquer all because reasons. Like there was no depth to it whatsoever. So yeah, actually gave
still
him
better than anytime they mentioned the anti-life equation.
Oh, that's what that's what I wanted to talk about is so they just sort of unveil the anti-life equation has been like written on Earth. They don't say where, they don't say when, they don't say what the fucking anti-life equation is.
Yeah, I was curious about that.
And then all of a sudden Darkseid's like, that's all I give a shit about at all ever. The whole movie has changed. It's MacGuffin. Like and so
well, you can tell for like Marvel fans, it's the equivalent to having all 6 Infinity Stones. Like it's the ability to kill everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
but
not
I mean,
just
like
to kill, but also to control. That's what Diana was explaining during the big flashback battle. Well, she's explaining the history to Bruce. The anti-life equation actually grants him the power to control all like living beings, which apparently
but we already have a MacGuffin in this movie.
I know, but the ultimate MacGuffin that he's really after allows him to control Superman eventually.
It's not the MacGuffin for this movie. It's not the MacGuffin for this movie. It's the MacGuffin for 3 movies from now.
Exactly, and that's what I was getting at earlier. Is like even though it's very interesting to see that interaction with Batman and Joker in the Nightmareverse and whatever, or Nightmare World, it feels like so much of this movie takes time to set up future films, and I'm like, I just want this to be one good story, and I'm torn because it is interesting, it did intrigue me, and it also bums me out because we're not going to see that come to fruition most likely. But at the same time, like it's like I'm interested in it, but I don't need it there.
Especially since the nightmare sequence at the end of the film was shot for the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
Oh, that was part of the reshoots
originally. Yes,
that was
the only part of the reshoots.
Oh wow,
that was the reshoots.
Yeah.
By the way,
and it was the one F-bomb.
I liked this Leto Joker.
Way
better than Juggalo Joker. However, I still don't like his laugh. Like, I think his version of the Joker laugh is ridiculous.
At least there's no question mark at the end of the laugh.
So the thing that I thought about this Joker is that he looks like a toddler who got hold of mom's lipstick.
Oh my god, you're right.
And he's wearing the dishwashing gloves.
Yeah, I was like, why is he wearing dishwasher gloves?
He's wearing a SWAT jacket.
But knowing Snyder,
reach around.
Yeah, knowing Snyder, he has a reason behind all of that shit. He's like, oh, don't worry. In the second hour of the 3rd Justice League movie in my head, that's when Joker puts on that costume for reasons.
And knowing that, we know that his reasoning is dumb.
I did see interview with him or bits of an interview that apparently he had over the last couple of years, he had already been talking with DC Comics about completing the story in comic book form.
Yes,
So
please do it there instead of on film.
Yeah,
That'll
and
probably happen.
apparently it was going to happen. It was a sure thing
I almost
Yeah.
guarantee it'll happen now.
until in the last few years, there was like a weird, like a merger or buyout with AT&T. Like there was some shuffling around in DC Comics.
DC almost got
They made a lot of cuts.
and DC almost got like closed
Yeah,
entirely.
yeah.
What?
So the last
Yeah.
word on it from on high was to Snyder was like, well, maybe someday if there's enough fan support or something. But now, most
they
likely
will.
that's what we'll.
I think that's
Like,
probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Twitter was pretty much jizzing over this movie, so
Yeah.
it'll happen.
Yeah. So I hope
mean,
it does because
I'm
like you
still
said,
not entirely sure that we'll see anything after this.
I think film wise is dead, but I think I think there's a chance for the
comic wise, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I don't think we're going to see any film continuation from this, just because it just doesn't really deserve it.
Nope.
at the same time, it's baffling. It's conflicting to say like, oh yeah, it's probably not going to happen. But then again, why throw millions and invite Snyder back to do this in the first place if they didn't think it was worth a little
because
something?
they didn't have any HBO Max exclusives. That's why.
Yeah, the Rona was coming up, and they needed something to happen.
Like they panicked at the last second and realized that they weren't going to have any content for their new streaming service because they weren't going to be able to film any content for 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, and the prequels for Game of Thrones have been like indefinitely delayed. Like they're like 2 or 3 years behind now.
And in
at this
fact,
point.
I've heard that they've passed on all of them.
No, they have 2 or 3 more in production now, or at least pre-production, and they're still doing the Fire and Blood one, which is the Targaryen family history.
Well, who knows? Maybe with all of that said, and also the Fantastic Beasts bullshit, kind of, I don't know what's really happening there. Maybe Warner Brothers might be a little more open to like saying, "Hey, Zack, maybe come and do a little more something," or maybe in some form they'll complete or pseudo complete the story with the.
Well, I mean, here's what we do know, though. I mean, we do know that at least 3 of these characters from this movie, 4 of these characters from these movies are coming back. One of them we know most likely definitely isn't.
Yeah.
Well, it's confirmed. Like they'll never.
Cyborg has pretty much said, "I'm out.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourselves."
Why did he say that? Was there something that happened?
He said he will not work with Warner Brothers in the future as long as the current president is still the president of the company.
Because they essentially came out and said that Joss Whedon was not at fault for all of the bullshit drama with him.
Which does not look good in retrospect with all of the allegations against Whedon.
Whedon was on top of the allegations of Whedon that we discussed before, the stuff from the Buffy days, Charisma Carpenter and whatnot. There were also, for the last several months, there's been a battle between Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg, and Warner Brothers. He had reported mistreatment on the set by Joss Whedon to the Warner Brothers execs.
And that's how all those other allegations came up in the first place, was because Ray Fisher called him out
and everybody spoke up in support of Ray Fisher.
Right. And the Warner Brothers execs came back and said, after getting a lot of pressure, they said, "Oh, we're going to conduct an investigation," and then they came back and said, "Oh, no, everything's fine."
Yeah, we investigated ourselves and found no issue with ourselves.
Yeah. So hence Ray Fisher said, "Fuck you, Warner Brothers.
Like,
I'm out." Yeah.
Got it.
So Ray Fisher said that he's done, but we already know that another Aquaman movie is coming.
Aquaman,
and an Aquaman spin-off.
Did we ever get a confirmation that Amber Heard got fired from it? Because there was rumors that she got fired.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet. So there's an Aquaman spin-off about the deep.
Huh.
Where all the like bioluminescent creatures hang out.
So he's just gonna hang out down there with James Cameron, like in the Mariana.
And then we know there's another Wonder Woman coming coming out because of course there is.
Wonder Woman 3 will happen. Then Flashpoint.
And then we're gonna see Bruce we're gonna see Ben Affleck, Batfleck again in Flashpoint with Flash.
Yeah.
And originally Cyborg was supposed to be in that movie.
Yeah.
But
I say let these films come out and then let this universe end and let the new Batman start a new one.
Well, I mean, I think the idea is that Flashpoint is the end of this current version of the DCEU. That's what I'm getting at.
That's fine by me. Yeah.
And that Flashpoint will lead into like a rebirth of a new DCEU.
Yeah. Rebirth.
We've been on the DC for a while. Is there anything anybody else wants to pull up real quick before we move on, or?
Let me see. I was writing little notes to myself as we were watching Justice League. I think we pretty much covered. Yep, there's definitely no way to look cool in an ejector seat. Lord of the Rings, multiple ending syndrome for sure. Yeah. Oh God. Okay. Last thought about Justice League. Again, maybe I'm like in the minority, but I really enjoyed it, and I do hope that they at least complete the story in comic book form. So I'll cross my fingers for that. That said, I've already made the comparison to Lord of the Rings with the big flashback battle, which I loved, and then the ridiculous amount of endings. However, again, in these big fantasy movies, so the flashback battle happens, and then Diana is explaining how the three races, the Atlanteans, take the boxes. Yeah, they go to hide and guard the boxes, for all time, whatever. The Atlanteans, oh yeah, don't worry, we're gonna set it up in our
the fate of men always fucking shit up.
Or our underwater temple or whatever. It'll be guarded, nobody will ever find it. The Amazons, oh yeah, it'll be on our invisible fucking island and sealed away.
And then men just bury it in the fucking ground.
We just buried it in a hole.
No, I saw that same thing. I was like, wait, you guys are just burying it with dirt?
Yeah, like what the fuck? Like what
not even like a deep hole. It's just like,
yeah, did you bury it deep? No, just like a foot down back by the outhouse. Nobody will find it. Like, fucking really? Why are men always the race of men are always the dipshits in these stories? Like just fucking inept or corrupt or both. Fuck.
I mean, if I have to come up with a reason, if I have to justify it, men are always the shortest lived of all the fantasy races. Yeah. Literally, if they bury it in a hole in the woods, within a generation, nobody remembers where that fucking thing is.
Yep. Hey, you remember where the hole was? I don't know. Fucking know.
That was Grandpappy's hole.
Yeah, Grandpappy. Up the bird in the hole. Shit. Okay, guys. Yeah. So, well, congrats to Zack Snyder and everybody who worked hard on the Justice League film. I mean, they at least deserve to get it shown properly how it was meant to be. So, kudos to them for that. But moving on, in the world of Marvel, this was a massive weekend because, both Marvel and DC nerds got Justice League and now the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And by the way, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was like 49 or 50 minutes long. That was the longest.
Yeah, it was epic.
I kept waiting for like, oh man, when are they going
to WandaVision?
And
it still had like 4 minute long credits though.
It did. Yeah, that was funny. Initial thoughts. You guys want to go?
I thought it was great, but it was not as good as Wanda's opening, I would say. But I thought it was really well done, and it definitely gave it definitely gave Captain America Winter Soldier vibes. I know they're trying to do like more spy-ish type stuff.
Yeah, recapture that same feeling.
Yeah, so it definitely captured the memory of Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I like it. I agree. Like maybe not quite as, an edge of your seat cliffhanger tune in next week sort of thing, like WandaVision. This feels definitely more just like an extended version of like Civil War or Winter Soldier, just broken up into 6 parts. It's going to be.
I think there's fewer
6
episodes with this one, but they're longer.
6 episodes, but longer episodes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it so far. I saw a tweet and I wholeheartedly agree with it. It said something like, we got more character development out of these 2 guys in this first 40 minutes than we have in the whole MCU.
Yeah. I mean, they are 2 of the side characters that really haven't been the focal point. So
yeah. But yeah, I'm liking it. I can already see. I mean, they haven't met up yet, but I can already see the Lethal Weapon vibes are coming. You know, Bucky in therapy and giving the therapist shit, and therapist giving it right back. That was fun.
I really liked the character stuff a lot.
Yeah.
It's something that we don't get too much in Marvel movies because of the length of the movies.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can, like, character stuff you can put in there. I was expecting to like the Falcon stuff. I did not realize how much I was gonna like the Bucky stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Bucky stuff,
Mhm.
my only question from all of the Bucky stuff was, did he know that was the father of the dude he murdered, or was that a coincidence?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
it seemed like he was surprised at a moment there. He was surprised.
Because
Yeah,
his name was in his book.
Yeah, his name was in his book, but did he know that they were the same person?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I was a little confused there too, because there was a strange beat where it looked like he was shocked and surprised, but then you see in his notepad, like, that's one of the guys he has to make amends to. He's already aware of it, which is why he's hanging out with him. But and then he has that moment where he goes to his apartment to confess, and he can't bring himself to do it, and he just bails.
Oh, because he sees the shrine for the kid.
Yeah. So I'm sure that'll come to a head eventually.
I really when she was asking him like what was wrong with his hands, I was just like, I really wanted him to just like pull that shit off and be like, the motherfucker is metal. Like, not just metal, this shit is like vibranium. Like,
I don't know. I'm probably in the minority opinion on this, but I was kind of like meh about the show, at least the first episode. But at the same time, I was meh about WandaVision the first few episodes as well, and then it got really good. So I'm still gonna give it a chance, but to me, it's like passive. I'm just like, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. It was just kind of there for me.
There was nothing really explosive
Special.
about this episode. This was just like the dipping your toes in, and the Sam giving up the shield, and them doing the
that was
fake
a cool
cap.
dick move at the end.
I was a little surprised to see Rhodey so quick up front.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I wasn't expecting to see his cameo this quick.
Yeah.
I also was not expecting for Sam to give up the shield. Like, I did not see that coming.
Well, he doesn't feel worthy of it, you know, and that's of course going to be his arc through this journey here. But yeah, like Mag said, that's a dick move at the end where they just give it to some guy,
some random white dude, some fucking white dude.
Yeah. Now I did see a article earlier with the showrunner. His name escapes me off the top of my head, but apparently he has hinted that character, the new Captain America, quote unquote.
So in the comics, his name is U.S. Agent.
Yeah, he is apparently going to have big implications in the MCU from here forward.
Really?
Apparently so.
So, okay, so I have a little story about this, and so I don't know if you guys know, but Captain America is my second favorite Marvel character of all time.
What's your first?
Spider-Man.
Okay.
But specifically the ultimate version of Spider-Man.
What makes him so ultimate?
I was the same age as him when I was reading the comics, really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that works.
Yeah. So the ultimate version came out in 2000, and I started reading it in like 2002 or 2003, and I was almost exactly the same age as the character when I was reading them. So it was just like perfect.
That's
Anyways.
that solidifies.
Yeah.
in the
I mean,
core.
and honestly, that Bendis run of the first 100 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man are like probably one of the best runs on any comic book of all time. Highly recommended. But Captain America
I'll put it on the list.
Is secondly my like favorite character, and in some ways I think as I grow older I appreciate that character more. I read, because Cap comics have always been like political in ways that are accessible to younger and like people who don't understand that the tales that they're telling are political. It's not until you get older that you really understand the political ramifications of the stories that they're telling. And this storyline, like the very idea of there being a second Captain America who doesn't have Steve's ethos is in itself a political idea. Because like Steve's whole thing was that like he used to be a soldier, but when he became Captain America after he was woken from the ice, he wasn't a soldier anymore. He was doing this himself. So the very idea of someone else and especially the United States government sort of like foisting Captain America on the people because they feel entitled to the person is inherently a political statement.
To put it mildly, it's like somebody who is not worthy lifting Mjolnir.
Yeah, exactly. Because Captain America himself he's not owned by the United States government. The Shield may be, or it used to be, but Captain America himself was not owned by the United States government. It wasn't a thing. And that's what his whole story throughout time has been, is that my identity is that I am a soldier, but that's not all I am. I am other things. And especially, and that's why I loved the first movie so much, Captain America First Avenger, is that moment where he's like drawing and and showing that he's an artist, and when he's getting trotted out on stage as like a dancing monkey, he feels isolated and alone despite the fact that this is where he wanted to be. It's not until he takes charge of his own identity and says like, I'm not just a USO tour, I'm capable of doing this stuff myself, that he becomes who he is supposed to be.
Now, don't forget, we've retconned that he was drawing the Shire.
That's right. He was drawing Gollum and Gandalf.
Yeah.
So the idea of U.S. Agent, who was introduced in the 1970s as this like false Captain America that took over from Captain America while he was gone, and ruined the idea of Captain America for a generation because he was like insane, and it's a whole
in the membrane
comics. So US Agent was like always a bad guy, but not really a bad guy, but is sort of a bad guy. So the fact that they're bringing him into this story for me is really exciting, because there are a lot of really interesting stories that US Agent is been involved in including this 1970s version of Secret Empire, or 1980s. And also Falcon's whole role in this is very, very interesting, because it seems like they are exactly doing what I expected them to do, which is they're playing on Nick Spencer's Falcon and run. It's called Captain America Sam Wilson, which leads into Secret Empire, which I don't think they're going to do that, but it'd be really interesting.
They're doing Secret Invasion, so they could adapt a mixture.
Well, Secret Empire is a very, very, very different story. That's the one where like Cap becomes a Hydra.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
I highly doubt that they're going to do that anytime soon. At least it would be amazing. We've talked about this before. I would love Chris Evans to play like evil Captain America, because I know that he'd love to do it, and I would love watching it because I want to see him. I want to see Hydra's ass.
Now they've skirted around an actual answer to this, but do you think they'll ever give us a solid answer? Like, did old man Rogers just pass away from natural causes after handing over the shield, or did he...
I think it's really interesting because I was sort of wondering, because my sister and I have yet to catch up to the movies. We watched Thor Ragnarok last night, and so good. So good. So we only have like a couple more movies before we get to Infinity War and Endgame. But I totally could have, because we didn't watch this last night because together, because I was like, it's gonna spoil Infinity War and Endgame. But I totally could have.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing actually that spoils it other than Cap no longer has the shield.
No.
Or is not
gone
Captain
now.
America anymore.
Yeah.
I think he just went to Tahiti because it's a wonderful place.
And then Captain America went to his home planet.
Yeah. What if he's just like, he's back at the Avengers compound just doing the laundry for everybody. Just hanging out.
Sitting in the back in a rocking chair, just kind of whittling away.
Yeah.
Dipping graham crackers into milk.
Yep. Drinking a cold one and just staring at the lawn.
Wondering where Tony Stark's pension is.
Also, I love that Bucky is doing online dating when like what?
Yeah. How old are you? 106.
Also, I was just waiting for Bucky to like accidentally say something super racist to that woman.
Oh.
Damn.
Because he would know better, like
he was in the Eastern Front. He was in the Eastern Front, not the Western Front.
Yeah, do you think they were really enlightened the difference between the two fronts?
No, they just wouldn't have heard all the terms.
I think he's been defrosted long enough to catch up with history.
I don't know about that. It's been like what, like 3 or 4 years?
I don't know.
Total that he's been defrosted. Do you think that people who came back from Korea were like,
because he wasn't
racist 3 years after they came back from Korea?
It's been at least 8 for him because he wasn't blipped. He was alive during the blip, so that's 5 years minimum.
Was he?
No, he
got blipped.
He got blipped.
He got blipped.
Was he one of the ones that blipped?
Yeah, he got blipped.
Yeah, him and Sam. Yeah. Anyway, stop trying to cancel Bucky.
I was just like, oh God, don't say something racist. Don't say something racist.
We had to pause like a couple minutes in, and again, because it had been so long since Meg had watched them, like she's like, I basically needed like a recap of
the saga of Bucky.
And so I sat there and just gave her the cliff notes and everything, and we got to like,
it is pretty twisty and turny.
Yeah,
it is, and it's really hard to follow. So
like he like randomly goes to Wakanda for like a couple of years.
Exactly, because that's really the only scene that I really remember Bucky.
And it only happens in the post-credit scene of one other movie.
Well, that's the thing. He's always in these post-credit scenes besides his own film. So you only get like fragments of his story. And even then it's a little confusing because...
Well, they mentioned the reason he goes to Wakanda is so they can help him heal.
Calm.
Yeah.
For calm and
Shuri, brain
Shuri can like deprogram his brain.
Yeah, and then we catch up with him when he's out there just like living on the farmland, and then it's his Rambo moment. We need you back in the field, Rambo. We need you one last time.
So one thing I actually really appreciated, and it really seems like it's sort of synchronistic, is that when Rhodey is describing the state of the world, it very much felt resonant with our current state of the world. And he's talking about post blip, but like post coronavirus, like it feels like the same. The world is sort of like, he said that the world is like broken.
Yeah, you would think everybody coming back and everybody getting loved ones back, it would fix every problem that everybody had in the world. But no,
but the world
creates more problems.
Pretty much like fell apart, and then like everybody showed back up, and it was like, what were we doing 5 years ago? Let's do that again.
Oh my god!
So he says like alliances have been broken. Enemies are enemies are allies, and allies are enemies.
Yeah.
And he says the world is like lost and broken, and that just felt. Not all of those things are true right now, but some of them are. I mean, especially post Trump, like it definitely feels like we have allies who are no longer allies, or the nature of their relationship has changed, especially after the coronavirus. So like when Rhodey was describing that, it just felt very resonant.
Yeah, and I love that we got several different perspectives on that exact thing, the state of the world, because you get it from Rhodey, who's kind of represents the United States
government
outlook, United States government outlook on it, from a global perspective. You hear it from, I don't remember the character's name, but the guy who's hanging out with Torres, your agent, and he kind of explains like there's a whole faction of people out there, or a lot of people who feel like things were better during the blip, like less people and for your resources, and the
Flag Smashers.
The Flag Smashers, which is a goofy name, but kind of represents like there's a lot of people out there who said like, why do we have all these borders?
So the Flag Smashers straight out of the comics.
Yeah. And then you get it from the everyman perspective when Sam and his sister try to get a fucking bank loan, and it's like, oh, you have no income reported for the last 5 years. Like, I fucking didn't exist. Like,
yeah, that's part blip, part racism.
Yeah. Oh my god, that guy, he played it well. The whole the douchey loan officer, just like, oh, I'm sorry.
By the way, I wanted to mention that Sam's friend Joaquin Torres, that's a character straight out of that Nick Spencer run on Captain America, Sam Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cool. He actually ends up becoming Falcon, but he's got like Falcon DNA. It's comics.
We don't go to those parts of the comics.
Like an actual bird of prey.
Yeah.
Because, somewhere his dad
Falcon
raped a bird.
Being Falcon because he's now Captain America, and so now he has a sidekick who's Falcon, but he's like a literal Falcon, but he's a Mexican Falcon. It's the whole thing.
Okay.
Comics.
Okay.
The comics have to make everything too literal when it could just be figurative. It has to be too literal when they're in the comics.
Some comic book writer or artist saw like he's a Hispanic character or a Mexican character,
He's Hispanic, yeah.
Hispanic, okay. So maybe some overzealous comic book writer saw like the bird with the serpent symbol on the flag and just thought,
Well, in the comic,
clever here.
In the comic, he's actually he's an illegal immigrant who is in the United States and serves as like someone who helps immigrants like not die on their way to the United States.
Okay.
So his character is very, very different. He's not like a serviceman or anything. Yeah, he's not like a military serviceman or anything. Though, actually, was he a serviceman? Did I make that up?
Oh, he was.
He was, yeah, because he was in like a Humvee, right? Like,
yeah, he was in
wearing
full
like
fatigues and a Humvee.
Fatigues, yeah. Okay, so I wasn't imagining that. So they're going in a very different direction with that specific character, but he's in that Nick Spencer run that I've been reading, that I've been talking about since the podcast started. So one last thing that I want to mention about a secret little thing that I found. I didn't found. I read it in a
article.
An article that there's a reference in the credits to the actor Carl Lumbly, who has been in a lot of different stuff. That his photo is seen like in some old-timey newspapers with a case number underneath it, and that case number is taken directly from this character, is a reference to this character called Isaiah Bradley, who in the comics was the first Black Captain America in the 1940s that was experimented on to recreate the super soldier serum after Cap was lost. And it's a whole story that is sort of like an allegory for the testing on African Americans that was done
Henrietta
um,
Lacks.
in what?
The Henrietta Lacks testing stuff. No, wait, was that DNA?
So
More
there
likely
was
like the Tuskegee stuff.
yeah,
Tuskegee.
yes, the Tuskegee experiments where like thousands of African American men were chemically castrated.
Yeah.
It's horrific and disgusting, but absolutely a part of our history. And so there was a comic in the 1990s that was really good that brought in this character of Isaiah Bradley, who became Captain America in the 1940s when Cap was missing. That he was like a secret Captain America, but he was just as much Captain America because he was a black serviceman that was tested on. And so it looks like there may be Sam might stumble upon the fact that there's actually been a black Captain America in the past.
Might be multiple Captain
in this
Americas
show.
at
Yeah,
this point.
multiple. Yeah. So this, and if that's cool, this show is taking on a much more like political stance, and that's why I brought up that before, is that Captain America has always been an inherently political story, and it allows the creators to sort of like tackle unique political stances that they may be seen as like Captain America, the character may be seen as non-political, but that is absolutely not the case.
Well, I mean, considering that 2 and 3 were political dramas, it makes sense to continue that.
But they had very little to say.
True, but I mean, it was definitely in the style of the political thriller.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean that's why they brought in Robert Redford.
Yeah,
I mean, quintessential political thriller.
Yeah,
character.
It's actually seeming. It seems to me like they might actually have something much more substantive to say in this show.
Not just explodey buddy comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we have to wait. Just like WandaVision, like we really know nothing yet. So we all had the fan theories, and there was all billions.
Yeah,
of
I mean, none of this
on
could
Twitter
end up being the case. But I mean, the fact that there's a pretty, I mean, it's not even like a small reference. It's like a almost direct reference to Isaiah Bradley. So if they were to do that and then not include the character, I think that would be really disappointing. But
I mean, come on, guys.
Wanda's kids.
Come on, guys. The new Captain America is obviously Mephisto. I mean,
yeah, no, you're right. It's definitely Mephisto.
Yeah. All right.
How could I be so wrong?
You fool. Oh, geez. All right. I think that about covers it. We'll to come back after this week's episode, this Friday's episode. And I don't know if there's any more major like movie streaming releases or anything happening in the next week or so.
When does Mortal Kombat come out?
End of the month, I thought it was.
And yeah, I think like March 31st-ish or something.
So we got a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, so
that'll be an interesting episode.
Bit of a tidbit. So back in reference to what I said earlier about the Game of Thrones prequels, they are currently in pre-production on 3 spin-offs. Sea Snake, which I'm guessing has something to do with Iron Isles or something. Flea Bottom and 10,000 Ships.
And those are all like greenlit pilots or what?
No, those are pre-production at this point.
Oh, okay.
So they're just finding showrunners and pitching ideas.
Yeah. So 10,000 Ships is in reference to Nymeria. The Flea Bottom would be a show surrounding King's Landing and the various nefarious characters in there, and no idea what Sea Snake refers to in particular.
Okay.
Just a show about a snake who's like, I'm in the water, help me out.
It's probably like one of the brothers of the the King of the Iron Islands. I think one of his nicknames was Sea Snake or something like that, so it might be related to that.
Alright.
And then a small bit of news that Tony will be excited to hear: Netflix's Cowboy Bebop has finally finished filming.
Yes, I did hear that. The actress who plays Faye announced it on Twitter, I believe. Just posted a quick selfie and it's like, "Hey guys, finished finally." Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I saw another article that what's the original show creator? Shinichiro Watanabe, or I think I'm getting that right. I'll have to look it up. He had an interview a little while back saying that he was basically kind of saying like he was kind of washing his hands of the series because a few years back this is an old interview, but apparently he wasn't like saying any ill will about it, but he said as far as his involvement, they did meet with him and he did give like, his thoughts and notes and everything, but beyond that, he hasn't had any contact with the show. It's not like he's overseeing it in any way, shape, or form.
So did somebody buy the rights from the rights holder and he had nothing to do with the rights being released?
Well, it still belongs to is it Sunrise, I believe, is a production house that did the original show. So I believe they still maintain the rights and they've been working with the Netflix show.
So they licensed out the rights to
Right.
an American company to
but yeah, as far as the original, creator, he's kind of like, well, they own the rights. I met and like gave all my notes and suggestions and ideas and everything. But beyond that, I have no idea if they've used any of them. So I hope it's good. I hope you enjoy it.
Interesting.
We'll see. Oh. One last thing. Speaking of blasts from the past, like Cowboy Bebop, Byron, you need to tell me about this Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition. And where can I freaking play it? Or how is it possible to even free?
So Silent Hill 2 has been unavailable to purchase on PC for about 14 years.
Jesus.
No
GOG edition unearthed or anything?
I can send you a link to a copy of it's on myabandonware.com with an extracted copy of the game that works directly with the enhanced edition. And there's literally no legal way to buy it, so you just have to get
acquired.
You have to get cool. You have to like be okay with your maker and acquire it by the means under which it is available.
Okay.
And then
that's how I got my my Star Wars theatrical cuts.
Yeah, honestly,
perhaps a Bay of Corsairs.
Yeah, I mean it's really easy. It's literally just on myabandonware.com. There's an extracted and an unextracted version. Download the extracted version.
All right.
You can just drag that into a file folder anywhere.
Okay.
And then go to Town of Silent Hill, I think .com, or the Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition, and just follow those instructions, and then there you go. I was playing it the other day, and they have done miracles with that game.
Nice.
Because it looks, sounds, plays better than it ever has on any platform.
And that was the one that I never actually played out of the series, and I always heard it was the best one.
And it's terrifying. It's still like, to this day, it's probably one of the only games that just scares the ever living crap out of me.
Nice.
Despite the fact that I've beat it like dozens of times.
I played it, but I don't remember anything from it.
Yeah.
The story is just amazing, and the music, I think, is probably the thing that has solidified the game so completely, is that the soundtrack is just so good.
Yeah.
That the sound design by was also done by Akira Yamaoka, so like the entire sonic soundscape of the game is in one, because he did all the sound design for the game as well as the soundtrack.
Yeah,
So
I loved
it's just-
3, and I still have the soundtrack.
No, 3 is amazing.
Wow.
3 is just as good.
Yeah.
It was still Team Silent. Silent Hill 4 was the last game they did, but 2 and 3 together are like phenomenal.
Nice.
I personally prefer 2, but 3 is also amazing.
Duly noted. Sweet. All right, guys. Should we put a cap on this?
I think that's about good enough.
We launch this podcast in an ejector seat.
Hey, nobody looks cool doing it, but we'll try.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. This is Tony.
This is Todd.
This is Byron.
And Meg.
And Meg. How's the blanket coming? It's going.
It's going like a blanket will, very slowly.
Tell me, do you bleed?
You will. Oh, they did keep the modulated bat voice.
Ugh.
Weirded me out.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Like, there's nobody around, Batman.
Swear to
just-
me.
It's just the people that know your real identity there. Do you really have to do the modulated voice?
And like parademons.
Yes, I do.
You think the parademons are gonna be like, oh my god, is that Bruce Wayne?
What if in the middle of the Russian battle just drops his laser rifle and goes, oh my gee, holy crap.
I think
I
that
get an
Batman
autograph,
is
Mr.
Bruce
Wayne?
Wayne.
Mr. Wayne? Title of the episode. Can I get an autograph, Mr. Wayne? All
Slow
right.
motion wiener.
We're out. We're done. That's it. Stay frosty, guys.
Bye.